How's it going, everybody? As Arnaud said, I am a New Yorker, and that is one of the things that I'm passionate about, and I would be remiss if I didn't start to talk about my passion, talking about some of the most important things in my life, like family and friends, and New York, and Brooklyn, the Mets, who are playing right now, and I'm missing the game. Where was that? Hell yeah. Hell yeah for the Mets. But that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. Actually, Arnaud asked me to come down and speak after he saw me speak at the Startup Leadership Program, which is actually where I know Dimitri from as well, and Arnaud. And I was talking there about organization culture. I'm an organizational psychologist, and I help companies think about the people side of their organization. So organizational culture, organizational leadership, structure, group process, things like that. And I gave a speech that was a fairly impassioned talk, I suppose, and Arnaud asked me, he said, "You're passionate, come speak about this. You're passionate about people. You're passionate about bringing groups together." And I said, "Arnaud, I'm actually an introvert." I do this, and it's part of my profession, but it drains me. This is not actually what I'm passionate about. He says, "You love people." I said, "Arnaud, I don't like people." I'm a New Yorker. I said, "Arnaud, I like individuals. I am passionate about individuals. If I meet you at some point, hopefully tonight, I will actually most likely find something about you that is beautiful and I will like you. You all sitting out there right now, I don't." I do. You're all laughing at me, so I appreciate that. You're boosting my ego. I appreciate it. I am passionate about you now. But generally, people not so much. So I was like, "What are you going to talk about?" I said, "You know what I'm actually passionate about, and this is going to be boring, but I am passionate about working hard. I'm actually really passionate about working hard. And I'll tell you why. Look, you've heard from a lot of people tonight who I met for the first time last week who inspired the hell out of me then and inspired the hell out of me tonight. Really amazing stories. I am not a motivational speaker. They were very inspirational and motivational. I'll call myself the anti-motivational speaker for tonight. I don't believe that we have a destiny that we're going to find. I don't. I don't believe in bootstrap narratives. Nobody ever pulled themselves up from their bootstraps. I don't believe in self-made men or women. Bullshit. Somebody helped you. You were not a self-made person. There is no one who is. And that's a damaging narrative to me. So what I believe in is hard fucking work. I believe in doing the work, putting the work in, and putting yourself in a position where you can get that hand up, where luck can come and find you. And I know that no matter how hard I work, no matter how much I put myself in that position, there are people working every bit as hard as me who don't succeed. And that's not necessarily their fault. It just means I was lucky where they weren't. But I'll tell you what, you're not going to get lucky if you don't do the hard work to get there, right? So I'll tell you a little bit about my passion in work now and the hard work I've put in. 4 years ago, I was working with people actually I loved. I had a consulting business with some of my closest friends in the world, and we were doing some meaningful work. A lot of consulting to large pharma and finance, not as meaningful, but also for the United Nations, which felt a little more meaningful. But these are giant bureaucracies. Places where I would go in and I would do a leadership training or a conflict training or help people understand how to work better with groups. Maybe even do a strategic planning retreat for them. Nothing changed. Nothing happens. And I hated that. Hated it. And so I left my consulting company. Some of the closest friends I had, some of the people I respect as professionals the most in the world, and I left them because I started working with startups in New York. And I loved it. I absolutely adore working for startups because you go into a startup, you help them think about how do they build a company from the ground up? How do they create a culture? How do they create leadership, right? That's going to make a sustainable, wonderful company for them and for the people they work with, and it happens. You don't have to wait for it to happen. At startups, it happens, and I loved it. So I left, and I said to myself, I'm going to be the person, the organizational psychologist startups go to in New York. If you're a startup and you want to think about culture or leadership or organization structure or group process, the people side of your organization, you're going to know my name. And I worked my ass off to make that happen. And this is 4 years later, And it's actually started to happen. I'm not willing to call myself a success. I said this during our training, our rehearsal. I said, I'm not a success. I refuse to think that way, in large part because what then? Right? If you've succeeded, if you've accomplished what you want, what the hell then? And I think I'm scared to hell of success, so I would not say that. But I have gotten to a place where people do think of me for those things. And like an idiot, I've decided, well, that's not what I'm going to do anymore. So I decided to go and start my own venture. And that, to me, is my outlet for creativity is entrepreneurship. There are some people who write, there are some people who paint, there are some people who make music, and I have an incredible amount of respect for those people. My creative outlet is entrepreneurship. So I decided to start a company, and I decided this is the hard work I want to pursue. And at the time, I thought, well, I could find myself a technical co-founder, and I actually spoke with Dimitri a bit about this. And at the end, I decided that the time I could spend finding a technical co-founder is just me avoiding hard work. And this is going to sound absolutely crazy to everyone, but about 2.5 months ago, I decided I'm going to fucking code this thing myself. I'm going to do it. And I'll tell you what, there's some really amazing tools, and if anybody who wants to talk about this process with me, it's way too long for the conversation here, but there are some amazing tools out there that will help you learn and get there. And in 2 weeks, literally 2 weeks, and it's not, again, this is not me saying, it's not about, everybody's real. When I tell people, look, I put this thing up in 2 weeks after, I didn't know how to code, I decided to learn how to code it, I put it up, and I had a working prototype, and I've been working on it since. It's not about anything other than the ability to continually bang your head against a wall and take the pain that it takes to sit down and fail repeatedly and put in the hard work to get that up. And at this point, I'm really, I have a hard time doing what I try to help my clients and everyone do, celebrate and appreciate what they've done. But I do have a working thing, and it's just literally through hard work, and people are using it. It's a leadership development platform, and again, if any of you want to talk about that, I will. But for me, what I would like to say is, look, the biggest thing that you can all do for yourselves is be willing to put in the work. Don't wait for it to happen for you.